welcome everyone for this another great session. So here is with us Prabhu and Gautam for our SUGCBE. They are hosting the Sitecore Docker journey on beyond installations. So Prabhu Ranganathan is one of our Sitecore solution architect, and he's working more than a decade in IT industry experience. And Gautam is working as a technical lead. He is also having more than 6 years of experience in Sitecore. So nothing wait. I'm handing over the Prabhu and Gautam.
Yeah, thank you, Vignesh. So let's get started. Good morning, everyone. So today's topic is this we are going to exploring Sitecore Docker's journey beyond installation, some navigating challenges and practical solutions. We are going to show it as a small demonstration on that. So it's about the session is all about right. Once we install the Sitecore and Docker the containers, so we typically having issues, right? So in conventional approach, we may not see that issues, and but when coming into Sitecore Docker, we may start getting those kind of issues. So we'll take that one kind of issues and we'll see how that can be fixed in Sitecore Docker container, because it has some restrictions and limitations in Sitecore Docker containers. So when we are working with Sitecore in Docker container, so we have to see what is the recommended approach to do that in Docker containers. That's how the session goes today. Um, so, uh, Gautam, yeah. So today's about us is myself, Prabhu Ranganathan. I'm working as a Sitecore architect. So I have more than 12 years experience in the IT industry and more than 8-9 years in experience in Sitecore. So you can reach me in LinkedIn through Prabhu-Ranganathan. And I'm writing a blog, so you can even see my updated blog information, blog posts and all in Medium platform. You can find me there, Prabhu.Ranganathan. And along with me, so I have Gautam Raja Ishwaramuthi, who is working as a Sitecore technical lead. He is having more than 7 years experience in the industry, and all 7 years he is serving Sitecore expertise. And you can reach him through LinkedIn and Gautam Raja Ishwaramuthi. And he has his own blog website called sitecoreknowledgebase.com. You can see all his updates over there. And today's agenda is, I think, we'll see some basic information we are getting into the real world issues that we are going to face. The one is the very simple topic: what is Docker and why? Maybe many of them may know about it, and many of them may start working on that. But this session is for this topic. We touched it for going with zero knowledge into the Sitecore Docker knowledge. So we are giving some small information, some basic information about what is Docker and why Docker, and a few Docker terminologies, and that will help them to use that in their real world uh, duties. So because of that, we are touching all some basic concepts in Docker, and then we'll get into the real demo part. So the first, what we are going to see is what is Docker and why, and the second one is some Docker terminologies and some Docker commands we are going to use frequently in Sitecore, and we are installing Sitecore in Docker, and how we are setting up the Sitecore in Docker. So what is the Docker setup which should be required. So those kind of overview information, we'll take a look at that. And once we start getting the Sitecore Docker and how developer life goes inside that. So how we are frequently start doing the work and communicating, collaborating with Sitecore Docker. Those information we could see in developers life of Sitecore Docker session. And then we'll show you a small demo of the life of Sitecore Docker. It's about currently in the conventional Sitecore instance. So what we used to do is when we are installing a package. For example, we have to take a package from any one of the Sitecore instance, and we have to install into another environment. What we used to do is we have the installation wizard in a Sitecore content editor. Sorry, Sitecore Launchpad. Through that, the Sitecore back office, we are through installation wizard, we are creating a packages and installing it. So that's how we used to do it. But when coming into the Docker part, uh, Sitecore item can be installed. So anything you can taking the package of Sitecore items can be installed in the same manner. But in case if you're taking any DLLs or app config or config files inside the package, and in case if you're trying to install that into another instance which is hosted in Sitecore Docker, Mm. I mean, Docker is not allowing us to do that installation since it is read-only. It has a read-only concept, so you cannot you cannot install the physical files like DLLs or config files directly into the environment. Docker won't allow us to do it. So for that, they are having many different approaches. We'll take one approach how to do that and properly and see how we are taking a package and installing it inside Docker. That's how the demo works. And in case of any questions after that, we'll discuss over there. The first thing is what is Docker? So in 2013, actually Docker was introduced as an open source project. So Docker is actually a software platform. It is actually helping us to constructing an application using container as its foundation. So we need to I mean we have to classify it. That is, Docker is different and container is different. You can container is a concept and Docker is a software platform which helps us to create construct the applications that can be hosted, that can be converted as a containers. And in the initial stage, initial developer for it is specifically developed for Linux, and then there's Docker has slowly expanded its capabilities to support Windows and Mac OS operating system as well. So right now, the Docker is supporting in all three platforms. And the main concept of introducing Docker is build once and run anywhere. So, as we all know, why, I mean, in later session, we'll see why Docker is, we need to go with the Docker. The main concept of introduce Docker is we need to build once and that application should be run anywhere. That's the main concept we are relying on Docker. And we have alternatives for Docker in order to containerization. As I mentioned earlier, container is a different concept and Docker is a software platform. So instead of Docker, for containerization, you can even go with build kit, Azure Kubernetes, LXC, Podman, and many more tools are available in the market. You can even utilize that and creating containerization. So in Sitecore, so what are the software platforms that you are currently using? One is for on-prem or for local environment, we currently using Docker as a container technology just for development purposes. And when we are going with the cloud deployment, so the preferred choice is Azure Kubernetes Service, AKS. So that's one currently we are using for containerization. And the next slide is about why Docker. So as I mentioned earlier, it's built once and run anywhere. That is the main concept of the Docker has introduced, right? So the main initial stages when Docker was not there. So how we used to work, like we create everything in our development environment and taking all the code package and application package, whatever it is, we are taking that and packaging it and deploying that in the respective, either it will be a testing environment or production environment or any other non-production environment. We used to do it, and tester would start doing the testing on that application, and they started finding some issues and errors, like so this is not working, this is not working, that those kind of issues they start giving up, and when we are checking that issues in our local environment, it may not be reproduced at some time. So obviously we have a conflict there, right? So we used to tell like it is working in my machine, but what testers say it's not working in the respective environment. So obviously we should have the reason to tell it's an environment issue. So most of the time we use tell it is a kind of environment issue. It's not of the code issue, not of the application issue. It's completely on environment issue. So we may face a lot of issues, something like that. So in order to avoid that, it is a better option. We go with the Docker, and we have another option called virtual machines, right? So I can take the same copy of my local and use that in the virtual machines. So why should I go with a Docker container? In case if you're going with the virtual machines, it takes a lot of space, right? For even the Hyper-V and whatever the virtual machines that we are suggesting, it takes a lot of space and it needs their own operating system. There are a lot of resources it will take from your machine. So, but when coming into the Docker container part, it takes very less space and you can install more applications. I mean, it consider the current machines operating system as its kernel. So you don't need to install a separate operating system for Docker containers. That is the main advantage when we are using Docker. And the compatibility. So everything we are when we are going with the container concept, everything we are separating it, right? So um, database, there are application wise, even you can separate it and host it. So that is in the compatibility wise, it is very easy. Even you can host that host the container in the service space. Like whatever the services you are creating, you can creating that as a separate container. You can host it. So that automatically the compatibility coming in the microservices architecture. So these are the main reasons we would like to go with Docker container instead of having our own conventional approach or any other virtual machine. And so there are two Docker terminologies we keep hearing when we are getting into the Docker world, in the container world. Those terminologies are Docker file, Docker image, container, and Docker hub registry. So these are all the four terminologies we keep getting we keep hearing that about that. So what is this? So what are those? What is the purpose of having this information? Regarding that, Docker file is a main key file. So if you are seeing any file called Docker file and Docker container, it is actually helps us to create the I mean, what are the things you have to build? For example, you in the developer environment, you are creating an application, right? So you have an application. For example, consider we have a Sitecore. So there's a Sitecore. We installed a Sitecore. On top of that, we installed our Sitecore application. For that application, we written many code base, and those informations are considered as the complete Sitecore implementation, right? So we need to take all those information and packaging it and installing that into another instance. So in that case, you have to mention everything in the Docker file. So that's how the Docker file works. So Docker file in the sense you have to mention what are the things has to be included and and that can be transferred into the another instance. So those informations you have to uh, put it in the Docker file. Okay, so what about Docker image? So I created the Docker file. Okay, I created a Docker file which has set of instructions, and then I need to package it, right? So I need to package all the information. So that can be called it as that should be called it as Docker image. The file has a set of instruction. Based on instruction, I'm building that Docker file that actually creates the Docker image. So which means Docker image has all the information which are mentioned in the set of instruction in the Docker file. So it takes all the instruction and build it and creating that as a Docker image. Okay. The next one is containers. So containers is the actual running instance. So you have a local machine which is running your application, what you have done is you created the Docker file and put all the instructions to take all the information from your local machine. You done it, and then you build that. When you're building it, it actually creates the Docker image. So right now that image has all the data which has mentioned in the Docker file, that all the data which are available right now in the Docker image. Once the image is ready, I have to make that image to run, right? So when we are executing the Docker image, we're actually creating the containers. The container is actually having all the runtime instances. Whatever whatever you have in your developer environment, that is that is now available in the running instance. That is called containers. So these three are interrelated. One, the first step would be Docker file, your instructions, and building it. It actually creating the image, and you are executing it, creating the container, which is actually the instance of the image. So it has all the applications which are available in containers. And Docker Hub Registry. So Docker Hub Registry is a kind of one. Currently, we are using all the version controls, right? We have a GitHub, TFS, those kind of version controls are there. So in the same way, you can even check in your Docker images. For example, you have an application and that application is to be converted into Docker image, and you want to collaborate that with the another person. For example, we have a team, and you have to collaborate that information to the team members, all the environment. So what you can do is you can check in that and images in the Docker Hub registry. So next developer, what they can do is they can download the Docker image and spin up the containers in the Docker. Automatically, the instance has been replicated over there, and they can start using the containers to create their application. That's how it goes. These are all the main Docker terminologies you should know about it. So these are all the few Docker commands we started using regularly when we are getting into the voice is not audible. Can everyone hear my voice, or it is very low?
It is fine for me.
Okay. Can anyone facing the issue? Please put in the chat box. I can try to speak loudly. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. So the few Docker commands are Docker compose build. So this command, when we are running this command, it actually, as I mentioned earlier, once you create the Docker file, you have to based on the Docker file, you have to create the images, right? For that, this command will help us to create the images. So once you create the Docker file, you're running the build command. It actually builds and creates the images. That's how you would assume it. I think there is one more file which would be required to run these commands. I'll let you know on the later session part. But right now, you have to assume it. Once you have a stuff in Docker file and running the build command, it actually creates the images. And Docker compose up -d is actually create the containers. You have the image right now, and you want, based on the image, you have to create the containers. So in that based on that, you have to run this command up -d. It actually create and start containers, and whatever the configurations you mentioned, based on that, the containers will be get created. That's how this command works. And Docker compose down, it's actually stops all containers gracefully. Once all are stopped, it removes it. So you have to make you have to very cautious while running this command, because when you're running this, it actually stop all the containers and stop all the containers and removing all those containers. And Docker compose start is actually in case you stop the containers, and this command will help to start the containers once again. And Docker compose stop command will help to stop the containers, but it does not remove. In case you don't want, some unused containers, you want to stop it, and later you want to utilize that. In that case, you have to run this command will helps the containers to stop. And later you can use the start command to start the containers again. Restart, this command is actually helps to restart all the soft and running containers. Even the running containers get restarted. This is because in case of any changes in the configuration path, you have to run this command. And Docker Compose PS, which actually lists all the services which are running right now. Even including the stopped containers, you can use -a. It will include the stopped containers list as well. And Docker Compose up -build, this actually rebuilds the container. Even the container has to be rebuilt for few scenarios. In those scenarios, you have to use this command. And in order to see the logs, you can see the logs command. And prune command is actually you remove the unused resources. In case uh, you have downloaded many images, which may be in some gigabytes, and but later you feel that you don't want to use that, or you're not using that. In that time, it occupies a lot of memory space, right? So during that time, you can run this command and remove the unwanted resources located in your machine. And Docker container is and Docker PS and all to list the containers. And Docker RM, which actually helps us to remove all the stopped containers. For more commands you want to explore it, you can, note it down the below link, which is the Sitecore link. There you can see the alt. Even you can Sitecore Docker cheat. If you're trying to Google that Sitecore Docker cheat, the Sitecore this link will be shown up. You can see there, and you can see many more commands over there. And when coming into the Sitecore Docker setup, so once you assume you have installed in your Sitecore in Docker, you start working on that. So during that time, so you are going to create any application. Assume it is a front-end application, you're creating it. And that time, so how your application setup should be there, should be there, because you have to convert this into images, right? So based on that, you have to align your application. So few files which are very important when you are creating your Docker setup, Sitecore Docker implementation. So we'll talk about that. And I'm in the right section. What you're seeing is this kind of prototypes which are available already in Sitecore GitHub. You can go there and download that and start utilizing that for your application implementation. So that is a simple way you can start doing your implementation. And main files are there is Docker file. As I mentioned earlier, this is the one which is helps to containerizing your application. So it is very important. So you have start creating your application and you want to containerize it, then this Docker file should be there in your application. So that is very important. You have to make sure the Docker file is there and you have given all the instructions. So it has a set of instructions. So you have to make sure all the instructions you are providing in the Docker file. So only based on the Docker file, the container will work in the later. And env file, env file is commonly used in various development environments. It's actually used to manage the um, uh, global configuration files. For example, it is completely for development purpose. For example, in my machine, I'm using my site name and where it is hosted. All these information will be provided in env file. And in some other developer machine, they are having that in a different area. They are having a different website name. All those global configuration information would be different. So I would recommend not to check in this env file into any repository. It's completely for local uh, utilization. And the next one is Docker Compose. This is the one I just wanted to mention it. So the Docker Compose.yml is the one which is mean for any development. This file is very, very important for any development, because right now Docker file is there. When we are building the Docker file, it actually creates the image. So when we are having this concept, we have one thing in our mind. So for example, I having 4 or 5 different applications, all has to be in a single image, because all these 5 applications are will be hosted in a same environment. And in that case, if all having in a different image, I have to um, all containers will be separated, right? So based on image, all are creating a separate containers. There is no point of having the multi setup concept and all. Instead of that, I want all my images clubbed and creating one container. In that scenario, what we can do is we can have a Docker Compose YML file. So once you have the Docker YML file, you can mention what are all the images should be there. Everything you can mention in the Docker Compose file. This is having the set of configuration, or we used to call it as instructions as well here. So you have to give all the instructions, what are the images you have to take, and what are the data you have to mention. All the metadata information you can provide it here. And once that is clubbed, when we are running the command Docker Compose up and D, it actually reads the Docker Compose.yml file. So what are the instructions provided in the file will be created as a container. So it's actually help to multiple image information. So it can contain multiple image information, not to create your application. That is the main agenda of having this file in your application. So in case you have multiple images and you want to club that in a single application as a single container, you have to mention all these instructions over here. And Docker Compose that override YML file is it is also when it's actually incorporated with the Docker Compose YML file automatically. So how it works in the backend is when you are doing the runtime, these files are clubbed and considered as a single YML file. But we are separating it here because we don't want to overwrite the existing file, because sometimes for example, one kind of scenario is that Sitecore has its own images, right? For example, XP0 installation, we take XP0 installation. Sitecore has a Docker Compose YML file, which is already they have given, which is having a list of instructions. So when we are running that Docker Compose file, it actually creates the Sitecore instance. So in that kind of a scenario, we don't want to touch that file and make any mess over there. Instead of that, in case if you are creating an application on top of your Sitecore instance, once you using the Docker Compose.yml file, you created that Sitecore instance. On top of that, you created your Sitecore application. And once you done that, you are packaging all the information, right? The Sitecore instance and Sitecore application. You have to club everything as a um, um, single image, and share collaborating with the respective environments or with the community. In that kind of a scenario, you can go with the Docker Compose that override. You can mention all your application information over there, and when you are checking this information repository, when anyone who is downloading it, or when you are collaborating with that, Sitecore instance information is separated and application information is separated in Docker Compose. But when we're running it, it automatically clubbed and creating the Sitecore instance with your application. So it is the main important of having the Sitecore Compose override email. And developer's life, as I mentioned in the previous slide, actually we have a Sitecore container registry for separate for Sitecore. Sitecore is having all the images, respective images for the Docker containers, prod, dev, modules, everything is separated over there. What we are usually doing is we are taking that and creating the Sitecore instance. On top of that, we are creating our own Docker files for our application, and using the Docker Compose override YML file, we are putting all those information inside that, and passing that through CI/CD pipeline, and running the command Docker Compose build will actually taking the Docker Compose and Docker Compose override YML file and running that file and creating the custom sitecode images, which will have the sitecode instance as well as our application. That can be hosted in our own registry, because that containers and images has our application information, so we can have that in the separate container registry. This is how developers life will go when we are at the sitecode Docker. So these are all the basic informations about Docker and how it works, and how it works in Sitecore, and how we are considering as a developer. And coming to the demo part, as I mentioned earlier, so we will see how we are taking on Sitecore package and deploying that in Sitecore Docker environment. Over to you, Gautam. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Prabhu, for explaining the basics of the Docker. And yeah, so let me know if you guys are able to see my screen.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, hi everyone. So as Prabhu said, so we have an issue when it's not an issue, like limitations on the site code and also with the Docker. So when you are installing a package on a traditional method, we will be used to install it using the package and Sitecore package installation manager. But when it comes for the Sitecore Docker, you will not be able to do that. The reason being is all the file structures which is related to the app config files, everything would be on the runtime. It is only on the read-only mode. So you will not be able to install the Sitecore packages into the instance which are running on the Sitecore Docker instance. So for example, I'm running a Sitecore instance. So which is Sitecore Next.js template, which I've been running on the Sitecore, which is running on the Docker. So when I try to install a package, which just has a yeah. So I'm trying to install a package which doesn't have anything on the package. It just have items and a sample layer. Let me show you that. So this is the test package which I'm going to install. So if you see the files, just have a app config folder and bin folder. So we have just a demo.custom.config file. So when I'm trying to install that file in the Sitecore package installation visual, so you'll be getting an error. So as explained, the error was due to the files are on read-only mode, so it will not allow you to put any files or into the file system. So that's why you will be getting an error. So let the package installations goes through and show the error. So meanwhile, what we'll be seeing is how to address this issue. So if you see, it says access path is denied. So it's because of the reason which I mentioned earlier. So how to resolve this? If in case if the package has only the items of the Sitecore items, you can obviously use the package installation wizard and you can install the package. The limitation doesn't applicable to the database items. So when it comes for any items that you are using for Sitecore, it will allow you to install, but the limitation is only for the file changes that you are being having. So to address this issue, so the overview of the summary of the demo, what we are going to do is, so we'll be having a one of the package which has all the files and items in both core and web database, and we'll be seeing how it would be converted into the we'll be using for it as a image. The first thing is you need to generate a package from a Sitecore, and then you have to convert that Sitecore package into the SCWDB deployment file. So which is used for Azure deployment packages. So you have to convert it that. And Sitecore has a recommendation of a folder structure, how it has to be done. It has a folder structure, so you have to put on that way, and then you have to convert that into an image, and then you have to update it in either an Azure Container Registry or in Docker registry. So to provide to share the packages with others, sorry, images with others. So this is the summary that we are going to do. So to do that, we have some of a prerequisites has to be installed on your local machine. So which is obvious, you have to run a Sitecore instance which is running on the Sitecore Docker instance, and you should have a Sitecore Azure toolkit, and you can download it from here. I can provide all the links later this demo. So you have to have the Sitecore Azure toolkit for converting your package into SCWDP package. And then before converting that, you have to install all the you have to have the SQL Management Studio, SQL Server on your local machine. So which helps that converting the items into a backpack file, one of a backpack. The in depth, all the items will be converted into a backpack file. So to do that, let's start. I have a package with me. Let's say for example, I have a connector with me, package connector. So where it has all the files and folders. So I have files of both on the app config and on the bin folders as well. So I'm going to show you how it would be added into converting into the CWDB package, and then converting that into the image. So for that, first what I have to do is, so I have to download the Sitecore Azure Toolkit. So I have already downloaded that on my local. So where I have So I'll already have downloaded and extracted the folders here. So this is the folder structure. So you
I think we are seeing only the launchpad screen. Are you showing any other screen?
Yeah, let me.
Yeah.
Yeah, are you guys able to see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry. So thanks for information. So I have downloaded the Sitecore Azure Toolkit and have extracted on the one of a folder. And these are the files which will be on the folder. These two files, which I have added on top of it, but rest of the others are the same. So first, what I have to do is I have to import some of files. So for converting the package into the SCWDB package. So what I will be doing is I'm going to import a couple of modules for that. So open the CMD as an administrator. So change that. And one more thing, when you are running this on your local, so make sure you are using the partial version 5.0. 7 won't be supported by the Sitecore Azure Toolkit. So you have to use the Sitecore PowerShell version 5, Windows PowerShell version 5. So I'm going to change my directory to the, where I have extracted all the Sitecore Azure Toolkit. And then I'm going to import the commandlets for converting the SCW package. So these two modules, what is responsible for converting the Sitecore package into the WDP package. So once you have imported, and then you have to run the command what convert. You have to use this command. So you have to use this command. So for converting the package, the parameters would be the path. So which file, which zip file you have to convert it. You have to take it as a source, and the destination where you have to be put that WDP package. So I'm going to put this as a connectors.zip. So this is my source file. So which I'm going to convert this as a WDP file. So I'm going to add this, and then I'm going to run this command on the So it will start converting the package into the LCWD package. It will take a couple of minutes to complete that. So once it is done, the files will be generated on the destination folder where you have been mentioned. So it says it's completed. So there is a folder created. So I have to go here. So it will be created on the zip package. And then what I have to do is I have to extract this and convert this into the Sitecore recommended Sitecore recommended folder structure. So which is nothing but so if you want to have it on the CM, so the folder structure would be similar, like put it on the module and role nothing but uh, which role it has to be deployed to. For example, for me, the items needs to be added only on the CM. So I'll be put it on the CM. Just scan. So this role specifies, which role you have to put your content. So for example, I'm using it for the CM, and then DB is nothing but so the items will be converted into the WDP package as I mentioned. So all those things you have to put it on the DB folder, and then if there is any Solar dependencies files, then you have to put it on the Solar folder. And if there is any additional tools that requires like PowerShell or kind of things, you have to put it on the tools one. So what I am going to do is I am going to extract these files, the content.scwdp, and then I'm going to create a folder structure for that. So what I'll be doing is, and I think I have already created one. Yeah. So this is one, which I have already created. So if you see, I have a folder structure of module, and then inside module I have a CM and CM folder, and under the content I have all the files which I required to be installed on the CM instance. And then the converter, if you go for the converter SCDP package, will be having a master and code file. So these two are nothing but these are my items, which is part of a Sitecore package. So those items are converted into the core items are converted into core DAC pack, and master items are converted into master DAC pack. So the Sitecore also has a restrictions, like if you want to install like the items, the DAC pack file needs to be changed into the Sitecore. The file which will be generated is code.DAC pack. You have to append it with Sitecore.DAC pack file, and you just create the folder structure like this. So once you are ready, and then you are ready with converting, you are ready to convert this CWD package into the container image. So for running that container image, what you have to do is so for running that, converting this container image, you have to create a Docker file which will holds these, these lines. So what this command actually does is, so it uses the nano server, which is nothing but a Windows IIS servers, a small version of Windows server as 22. I'm taking as a 22 version, and copying that the root folder into the root folder. This is the command which I will be running on the adding on the Docker file. So once I have added this Docker file, so what I'll be doing is I'll be running building the image. So for to build the image, so I'll be using, let me open the Docker file and show you. Yeah, so these are the files, sorry, commands which I have added on the Docker file. So I'll be converting this will responsible for converting this model into the image. So to convert this as an image, so I'm again going to the PowerShell, and I'm going to run this Docker. So I'm going to run this. So this is nothing but you are building an image, and then the tag which I'm going to use is connector, and the version I'm going to use 1.0.0. So what are the two version? Excuse you require. So click on enter, and okay. So the file is path is different. So I'm going to use the same this one, which since I've been using this. So if you go for the Docker image, only I won't be having this connector image. Yeah, just created now. Yeah, okay, it's creating. So once this image is created, so what you have to do is you have to have us hosting server kind of where you can share your, if it is for your local, then you are good to go with adding this image file into your Docker Compose override file, and then you are good to use it. And if you want to share it with other team members, then you have to host it somewhere on the cloud. So we'll be hosting on the Azure Container Registry, and you can also use Docker Hub Registry for adding this. So if you see, I have added this connector, and then it was created just 2 seconds ago. So what the next part what I'll be doing is, so I'll be uploading this package into the Azure Container Registry. So for that, I have already uploaded into the Azure Container Registry, and these are the commands which I have to do. So currently, my Azure account is down, so I can't show you how it runs. But yeah, these are the two commands which will be running. So this is tag connector. So it says whatever the tag you have specified, you have to use the same tag. And then this is the URL you will be generated when you have Azure Container Registry. So use this, and this will take it for the registry. And this Docker push container will what actually do is once you create a tag, and it will take this as tag, and it will push into the Azure Container Registry. So the command will be different for like the Docker push and Docker tag will be same, but this connector Azure and the other one will be different for the container hub. Docker hub container hub registry. So this is the thing. Once I uploaded it, now I have to consume it on my instance which I am running on the Docker. So for that, what I have to do is, so as I said, this doc image has contents for my CM website and items on the database level. So I have to make a changes on the CM role and on the and also on the SQL range. So for that, I have to make a changes on, let's say for example, Docker override. So go to the Docker Compose override. So I'll be adding this on the SQL int first. On SQL int, if you see, this is the URL. So this image will be pulled from this URL. So this is the connector URL which I have been using, and this connector is a connector which I have already uploaded into my Azure Container Registry. So this is for the SQL, and if you see, I have the SQL name, and I have to use it for the CM environment. the same I will be adding on the CM environment. So how I will be extracting this on my, specifying this is a content and this is a items. So I'll be specifying that into the Docker file of CM and MS equivalent. So when I go to the CM file, so I have passed that container image as an RWS connector. So I'm adding this as taking this as an RWS connector, and I'm using an alias name. From here, if you see, I'm saying like, from the connector, the folder which I have specified. Remember, like we have created a folder structure which is recommended by Sitecore. So I'm saying like, what are the files into the module CM content, extract that and put it on the root folder. So Sitecore has designed the way this Docker file designed in a way like, whatever they put it on this folder, it will be added on runtime. It will be added on the CM files. And for the similar thing, MS equivalent, I'm doing the same. So for this, again, I'm using the RWS connector, and I'm adding this DB from extracting from model DB and it putting into the connector. So this is the once this you have added these configuration files, the next step would be running the containers, which is you will be running using the Sitecore composer -d. So that's a command you will be running it, and so I already running an instance which I had a package installed. So to just show you the files I have added. Yeah. So let me show you files. Items. Yeah. So this is the content website app config file. So this is the connector file which I have been added, and when on the connector actual connector which I have installed, the file name would be different. The file name would be CM content. Yeah. So there would be a file called connector.config will be deployed onto the file system. So if you go to the Docker, yeah, so CM, expand CM files, the file structure would be the same, like how we will be installing in the local instance will be the same. So you have to go to the input www, all those things. So if you go for app config file, include, so the TMS. So I have the connector file here. So this is how this package converting these packages will be done. And also for items, if you want to verify to make sure like you have the items. So this is a package which I initially generated from the Sitecore using the Sitecore package designer. And items, if you see, yeah. So first I will be going to the master. You see templates and STL modules. So if you see here, the same thing, go to the templates, STL module, you will be having all these items listed over here. Similarly, if you want to check whether it is installed on the core database, you can switch to the core and check if it is installed on the core database. And this is how it works. And also, I have detailedly explained this in one of my blog website, so sitecore.knowledgebase.com. So I can give you the link on the chat. So where you can have a look, like how to use this, and on your local. If you have doubts, it has all the prerequisites which need to be added. So everything. So that's it. Any questions?
Yeah, the same information. I think um, Gautam is already having the side blog post, which is related to the same information. In case you want to explore more, you can go ahead and see the blog post, which has all the detailed information what he explained so far. In case of any doubt, please reach out to us through LinkedIn
Yeah,
or SUG Coimbatore WhatsApp group we have. Can have it. I think one question from Sumit.
yeah. Answer for the second question: to private the code repo or image inside Docker registry to do customers, buy it to some license. Yes, it's a paid one for the Docker connector. So hub registry, you have to pay pay, and it's a pay as you go. So you have to pay that and get some license for that. And also for Azure Content Registry, if you have an Azure subscription, it's also one of a resource you can create and post it over there. And for the first question, maybe probably you can answer better.
Yeah, I think it much on orchestration and scaling perspective. I think we would like to go with AKS because it has Kubernetes environment, right? So we have the orchestration very ease when we are going with the Azure Kubernetes services. And scaling purpose, like we have a load balancing and scaling based on demand. Those are all the things we have to keep in our mind. So because of that, I think everyone would like to go with the AKS. And much more options are there, even some automated operations by default in AKS, and few integrations with Azure services are very easy when we are having AKS. That's why I think everyone would like to go with AKS rather than Docker.
Any further questions from anyone?
Yeah, I think this is a pretty new concept. That's why I think it's many of them may not know it. What is happening in the back and how to do it and all. Just explore this blog what Gautam had given that. And in case of any questions after that, I think you can feel free to reach us either through LinkedIn or WhatsApp group. That is fine.